we plan on talking about is basically we want to get some background on this phenomenon, which we know of is the HBCU band media outlet. And what you guys, what I have heard people call you is the culture creators. Have you guys heard that? Y'all haven't heard that?
No, I can't say I have.
Yeah,
I haven't heard it.
yeah. That is what I have heard and read. The culture creators, and that's really interesting. But as we know, there have been some, and I think we talked about some of it casually earlier about some of the misconceptions. And of course, there have been issues. When I say issues, I mean things towards the negative. But then there also have been some very positive things, and so those are the things we want to discuss. And then for our coaches who are trying to navigate all of this, the SWAC and the MEAC teams are kind of accustomed to it, but some of the smaller schools may not be as accustomed to it as we are. So for coaches trying to decide, how they want to handle this, I think this is sort of a good orientation, or, for helping them make that decision. So I want to introduce our panel, and first is Mr. Gerard Howard, with the creator of marchingsport.com. And I want to, it's funny, I have to tell this story. When Gerard reached out to me a while ago, a long time ago, and he was just had been on one of the forums and was shocked about the kind of conversation that went on in the dance forums. And he just like, I just can't, I never knew, I didn't know. And I was like, me either, and as a lot of you know, the dance forums have kind of taken on a life of their own. So, but that was interesting. And I'm really hoping, he has been in the game a lot longer than some of you. So I really want to hear about his humble beginnings, and then of course, some of the things that he's doing now. Then we also have Mr. David Norman, who is the owner and founder of Band, is it Band Tube HD or Band HD 2?
It's Bantu High Definition
Right,
now.
high definition, Band Tube High Definition. David brings a unique experience, or a unique perspective, because if I'm not mistaken, you also do some work for Mahogany Emotion, or for the band at Morehouse. So you and Ricky kind of have the same kind of dynamic going on, where you do inside work, but you also do outside work. So you record other bands, but you record, one band in particular. So that's gonna be an interesting perspective. Also, Ricky Garza, who you may know him as Zimbalistic, and Ricky is also on our on the Marching Storm media team, which I'm the advisor for. So he and I work together a lot on making sure that our social media platforms stay moving and stay full of content. So now who we have joining us later, and they're not here yet, but they'll join when they can get in, is Trinian Winbush, who is better known as Trin T, or you guys know him as Trin T Productions. And he's young in the game, but has made quite an impact in a very short amount of time. And he specifically kind of focuses in on the dancers, although he's done some work with the entire band, but we know him for his work with dancers. So I thought it would be really good to have him into in this conversation. And also Demeridge, his name is Khalil Demar, and he is better known as, I hope I don't mess this up, Demeridge. Is that right? Y'all know who I'm talking about? Demeridge. Okay. He mostly records the stingettes of Alabama State University. And so that's where we see a lot of his work. And so we know what he does. So for all of my guests, typically what we do when we introduce our panel, we give them some snaps to say hello and welcome. That's right. and welcome to our virtual series. So we'll get started. So the first thing I want to do, and I do want to start with Gerard because, like I said, you have a little bit longer history in this game, and I'd like to know from you a little bit about your background and how you got started.
Okay. I marched to the band at Jackson State. Well, I'm trying to condense it down to the short version here. Just kind of condense it. But I marched to the band at Jackson State back in the mid '90s. I ended up doing the band's first website launched it back in '97. And during that time, I guess you could say I was kind of marched to the band in '95. Ended up getting out the band to get an academic scholarship the next semester. And then that next semester, I ended up working with the band to build their website. During that time, I would go to the games and I would take pictures of the band to put on the band's website. And while I was there, I noticed that there were, a lot of photographers on the field, but there was nobody who was covering specifically bands. So there was really no representation there. So after seeing that for a couple of years, I ended up deciding to go in and create what was probably one of the internet's first sites for Black college marching bands. So one of the internet's first outlets, as in dedicated strictly to going to games, taking pictures and audio. Well, at the time it was pictures and audio because video wasn't really feasible at the time, just due to time frame. Most people at that time were still using, AOL and dial-up and all that stuff. So pictures and audio was the way to go initially. But basically, in the late '90s, I would just the same way that everybody's doing now. I went strictly to the games to shoot games, put them on the internet, directly after the games, or either within a couple of days of the games. Site-wise, the sites that I've created were the sites have been blackcollegebands.com, marchingsport.com, the Marching Network, and bandhead.org, and HBCUbands.com. And so, I've pretty much been at been in the game for a while doing this. And it's been, I guess at this point, this is season 22, I guess. I guess if it were to happen, it would be season 22. So one interesting thing is that site-wise and creating sites, I had always, after I had done so many, I'd always wanted to go ahead and create a dance site. And so I'd always, every now and then, try to go ahead and figure out how to make that work. At one time, I was real cool with the cat from Swag Fans back in the day. We actually worked in the same building. If y'all remember Swag Fans, we actually, me and Maria actually worked in the same building at work, and we'd eat lunch together all the time and whatnot. So one time, he and I, tried to get together with a project where we would create the site and then have a, dancer kind of be the front of it, because we knew nothing about the dance world. But, we had the technical know-how to be able to create the site. Tried that didn't work. And eventually, what I ended up doing was the next effort of it was creating a band forum on one of my sites, bandhead.org. And so with the forum, the idea, again, was to be, a spot where, we had already had this thing happening in regards to the band world. with band members, coming on talking and whatnot. I said, well, I'd like to go ahead and create an outlet for dancers to do the same thing. When I created it, what was interesting is that audience wise, the audience was the audience ended up being fans of dancers actually, as opposed to the dancers. So it was, it wasn't what I expected initially, but they've been a, pretty big, crowd base on the site since since that particular forum has been created. They're still going pretty heavy now. That was a short version. The short version of everything. Oh, website wise now, site wise currently, everything is happening at bandhead.org. And on YouTube, my YouTube channel is at, you just call it hbcubands.com/marchingsport is the channel.
I remember that. Okay, so but I'll come back and ask you a little bit more, but I'm gonna let everybody kind of give their background and introduce themselves. So David, go ahead and talk to me about how you got started doing this.
Well, originally, I started in high school, way back in 2003. I skipped one of my games to go to a rival game within the area and to be on field. And I pretty much just did it. I'm not going to say do it how I do it now, but I pretty much I knew the security guy. I said, hey, look, I'm here to only record halftime, and then I'll leave after that. Well, the security guy was in the band at Glen Hills at one of the local high schools here. So he said, oh, yeah, we need this. So I started from there. I used to be on a website called Showtime Mag, and I got banned from that website. Still to this day, I have no clue why I got banned. But I got banned, and then I said, well, F this website, I'm going to make my own. And I started with showbandcentral.com, which has blossomed into a social media network of its own called showtime.bidiac.com, where at the time of the internet, at that time I was very anti-YouTube. YouTube was still in its infancy. Everything was still trying to get established. So I didn't want any of our band content on YouTube because I wasn't familiar with it. So I started my own. Everything was in-house. We ended up getting a huge following. Started with forums, pictures. I went off of the model of, I was a huge fan of him. I knew him, but I didn't know him. I knew of him. So I was looking at his website. I was a member of Marching Sport. I didn't really post that much because I didn't know too many Louisiana people like that. Sorry about that. Going on my phone. But yeah, I started with Showband Central. That blossomed into showbandcentral.bidiac.com, which was a video social network. And then it blossomed into BandTube HD, which was started by our co-founder, James McDaniel. And he hit me up with the idea. He said, hey, man, let's just do our own thing. Why we can't do our own thing? I said, okay, well, if you got the ideas, I got the technical know-how. And then here we are today, to be able to showcase HBCU marching bands. Now, with that, I've tried to dip my toes into expanding out of HBCU marching bands, but the people want what they want. And I believe in giving everybody what they want. So that's a little bit of my background. I went to Fayetteville State, South Carolina State. I remember my band director, Mr. Chambers at Fayetteville State, when the Defeat the Beat happened, I told him I'm not going to be at a game because I'm going to be at Defeat the Beat. I already have press passes. So I ended up skipping that after getting cussed out horribly. And I went to the game and had a good time, and it's blossomed from there. You know, it's really blossomed from there. Our website currently is in development because I'm thinking of ideas to try to incorporate everybody's knowledge into one website, and at the same time make sure they get the recognition that they deserve. And I'm kind of the guy who started live streaming. Our first live stream ever for Black college bands was North Carolina A&T versus South Carolina State in 2008, 2009, 2008, 2009, one of those. That was the first ever live stream on Ustream, and I had my little pocket laptop. Every time the bands would play, I would turn my laptop around and show everybody, just like that. And,
I remember
second
those days.
stream was Winston-Salem versus South Carolina State, and that ended up netting about 13,000 views. So at that point, I knew live streaming was going to be a thing, but I didn't know it was going to be a thing like today. And that's about it. That's about it.
Okay, good. All right, Ricky, go ahead.
Okay, well, as you know, my name is Ricky. I marched at PV. I was a freshman in 2008. I marched for 2.5 years. My last performance was Honda 2010. After that, that fall semester, I had applied to become an RA in one of the freshman dorms. So I had received the offer to be an RA. So I knew that the Honda 2010 was going to be my last performance. But throughout my time while I was marching at PV, I noticed that there wasn't a lot of video of us. It was always this school or this other school. But every time after a game, you would see videos from these schools, but you wouldn't see any videos from us. So after I became an RA, I had obviously a lot more free time, and I picked up a camera. I had a Nikon, I think it was a Coolpix. It was just a random camera that I had bought, and my first footage was 2010 Labor Day Classic with PV and Texas Southern. After that, it was just on my own terms, just would go to several games. I wasn't officially tied to the band. The staff knew that I recorded, but it was just on my own time. Eventually, when Dr. Zachary and his staff came in, I do want to mention a name, Barbetta Freeman, who was the person in charge of all photography since 2000, the early 2000s, was the one who kind of introduced me to the Zacharys. And after that, it just became a bond, and they have taken me under their wing. And so I've been working officially with the band since 2012, but officially we started recording in 2010. So my main focus is mainly Prairie View, and every free weekend that I might have, I might go to another game, but my main focus is PV.
Good. Okay. So let's see. So you can see it is a little bit of a crowded field now these days. How do you all set your brand apart from everybody else? Because if you notice, everybody's kind of got like a little different, a different aspect, or their point of view is a little different, or the way that they're presenting or what they specialize in is different. So how do you set yourself apart from everyone else? Gerard?
I was about to say, I was hoping somebody else would take that one. Take that one first. Yeah, it's, certainly since I've started, there have been a lot more people to to kind of go in and get added to the field now. Um, for me, I would just say I always keep trying to improve my work. For me, you know, um, whenever I look at my work, I always um, uh, I guess as a side story, I got into photography, covering Black college marching bands, and since then it bloomed into, I do nature and landscape work as well as, and I basically I started off as a photographer, and so I guess, and that incorporated over into video. For me, I guess I bring that aspect as a photographer into my video, and saying that to say that when I always want to be able to look at my work and be proud of it, no matter when I shot it. So if I shot it, every now and then I'll go and take a look at something I shot 3 years ago or 5 years ago. I'll take a look at it, I'll critique it. I'll take a look at something I shot a few years back, I'll start clapping for it, because I know that, work-wise, I try to put my energy and soul as a bandhead into my work. And so I try to continue with that same thing. If I see any improvements that I can make, if I see any improvements that I can make, I go ahead and do so, as far as kind of distinguishing myself. But to be honest with you, everybody nowadays is doing top-notch work. So I think I would say it's probably a little bit more difficult to distinguish yourself these days. For me, it's kind of one of those, stay true to yourself as a bandhead and what you enjoy doing. Keep putting your soul into it as an artist, and that's kind of what I've been doing from that standpoint.
Ricky, what about you?
Yes, well, I do want to mention also something that I forgot. Gerard had brought up the Marching Network. And I remember after every game, that would be the first site I would go to because that's where clips were being posted, not so much YouTube. It was the Marching Network.
Back in the day.
Yes. So that, yeah, it was mainly the Marching Network that you would run to after each game. Well, what sets me apart, I mean, like Gerard said, I mean, everybody has their own quality. I mean, to this point has improved. I mean, we've got 4K footage now, went from 480 to 60p to now 4K. And I'm all about quality. I like to take my time in every frame that I see. I mean, before I press the process render button, I always make sure that I go through the footage, I mean, twice, 3 times, making sure that, okay, what's being seen, is it something that, I mean, nowadays, every little thing is critiqued, from a spat that might be crooked, a hat that's missing a plume, a stain on a uniform. Every little thing is being critiqued. So I like to take my time and make sure that, okay, and what I'm showing, this is, once you put it on YouTube, once you put it on the web, it's out there. So I want to make sure that I portray the university, that entity, the organization in the best light, and not just uploading, I mean, without looking through what might be in it. I mean, there might be, somebody might be, perhaps not a band member, but people around might be having a conversation that is inappropriate, or might be saying some things. So I always make sure that that I post top quality footage. Another thing is, lately, and Gerard has been doing a lot of that as well. I like to a lot of my footage give it a cinematic kind of look to it, so almost as if it was a movie. Now with the quality of these 4K cameras, I mean, you're able to do that, and so I like to give my videos a cinematic look, whether it's adding some of the bars at the top or the bottom. My first video was in 2013. We did that with the PV versus Southern 2013 game, the halftime show for PV. Me and a friend of mine, Lewis, who also helped me out with this with the video. He focused in audio. That was my first video where we added the black bars, and then just color correcting. I mean, bringing out some highlights or shadows, changing some of the color. So I like to give my videos a cinematic look. So I think that kind of that's what I focus on a lot more now.
You know what, Ricky? Just I could pick out 3 to 4 things you just said, and elaborate on some things that affect us as the subjects. The first thing you said that was so poignant is that everybody critiques everything, right? And that is so true, and it is a big concern for not just the band. The band can get away with, being critiqued. They, whatever. But like when we're talking about the dancers and the color guard, and they're not there. They're not at the performance. They're not there live. They're literally waiting for you guys to post whatever it is that you record so that they can just go in and just start nitpicking and just tearing everything down. Are you guys aware? Are y'all aware? And are you thinking like what Ricky says? He knows that people are critiquing everything that you put up. Are you guys like really? Are y'all thinking about that at all?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
want to add something. Oh, go ahead, Gerard.
Jokingly, just like Ricky said, after you done spent hours editing your footage and making sure that the shot is framed correctly and making sure that the colors are good, you would hope that somebody at some point says, "Hey, good footage." But no, with that, I mean, this is, band wise, everybody is waiting more or less just to, the critiquing part of it. I almost hate to say that it's the internet is the best way to put it. The internet has conditioned people, especially band world wise, to everything that comes out, even if it's something right, people, if they're opposed to it, if they're on a certain side or whatnot, if they're on us versus them, they're gonna just kind of say what they're gonna say what they want to say. They're gonna say something negative,
Right.
depending on the, in most cases.
And with that, I think at least when I upload our videos, I already have this is going to be a us versus them kind of mentality that they're going to say. If prime example, if everybody knows a flag will drop flags, but you're always going to have that one person, oh, you dropped a flag at 2 minutes and 3 seconds, and then you dropped it again at 4 minutes and 8 seconds.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
They will tell you exactly where to go to look for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Skip over the rest of the video. Go to 409.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Right.
And I mean,
Yeah.
to YouTube's credit, I'm glad that that we as a people are able to do that. That's technology improvement. I like that. But there are certain things you should expect with a organization. Not every organization is perfect. You will see flaws. That's the name of the game. You're going to see flaws. Now, true with us, we're going to try to mitigate those flaws as best as we can. I don't want you to see people dropping mouthpieces. Me personally, as a bandsman, I don't enjoy it. And me personally, as a fan of Ricky and Gerard, I don't want to see it.
Right.
You know, I don't want to see mistakes. And I appreciate that the culture is what it is at this moment. They are very honest, very honest. Even to the point to where if we're recording a dance captain or a dance team, they know the captain name before I know it.
Yeah.
I've
Where they
never
where
heard
they
of
went to
this thing.
high school at? Yeah, where they went
Yeah,
to high
where they
school.
went to high school and middle school, and she's always been like this. And okay, all right,
But let me, okay, and I'm going off script because you know I sent y'all a list of questions, and I don't think I'm gonna get to that list, but but I find this is good discussion. I Okay, so you don't want to make people look, or you don't want people to see the flaws.
Yeah,
yeah,
You don't want people to see the flaws, but and I'd like to hear from maybe another coach. I see Tiffany joined, and Ray, and from the other coaches. Do we want to be perfect, or do we not? You know, because
Yeah, I'll perfection is always fleeting as a dancer. You know, perfection is always the goal. That's anyone's job when you're a performer. Perfection is always the goal. But I will say that as a coach, you know, they're not professionals yet. And we have to remember that they're students, they're young adults, they're still working through new levels of stress, especially if they're new to the team. New levels of stress, you know, we all go through college-ish. We all have been there. We all know that the way you respond in college is not the way you respond once you're 30 or plus. And so we have to respect the fact that these young people are having those first moments. And now they're having them in front of hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
And instead of, praise God that this still isn't around when I was dancing, because I made so many mistakes.
Oh my God.
I don't know how it would have felt to my psyche to want to go at least catch footage of me performing and be like, dang, Ray, you messed up a couple times. Let's see if anybody caught that on film. Or the same way any athlete would go and study their film after a game or anything like that. Film is meant to be studied. It's meant to be used as a tool to teach and perfect. And I think sometimes, of course, that's not y'all's fault that the comments go there, but I want fans to remember that that's why we have film. You know, film is a teaching tool. Film is a growth tool. And the commentary on anyone's personal growth for me is just a bit intrusive. But you can't tell people what to do. You know, it's America. You say we want to say, do we want to do. So then it just kind of comes back to the coaches and how we help our girls navigate through the comments and through the bashing, even the praise. Sometimes I've seen girls get praised for things where I've like laid you out in practice. Like, no, that's not what I wanted you to do. And so I'm laying you out and you telling me about your fans. I don't give a damn about your fans. I'm telling you what I needed, what I needed. And you tell me about your fans. I don't care about your fans. This what I needed. This what I ain't get. So if they like it, give up your spot for them then. How about that?
Yeah. But you know
Yeah.
what? You know what's really interesting is when you guys first started, we went to you. Like we literally waited for you to post your stuff so that we could do exactly that. And we would send our girls there and say, go look at it. Because at the time, the bands themselves didn't have media teams. And we would say, go look at it and come back with a list of critiques. Come back and tell me what you did wrong and what you need to work on, right? And then somewhere down the road, it flipped, like boom. It just flipped. And I have to say that you guys, although you haven't changed or you did not cause something to be more popular or less popular, or you didn't build the fans, but you definitely provided the platforms for the fans. And that's just like Gerard, what you were saying earlier, and Tiffany also commented on this, is that when you first started your dance form, you had started that for the dancers, and then it turned in to the fans, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, do you see now why when I heard that name, culture creator, I was like, mm-hmm.
And I mean, to your point, even with us as a coach, if you want us to offer critiques, we will. But I am a bandsman. I was in the marching band. I played an instrument. So my critiques, the way I feel about it, the only thing I know about dancers, smile. You should always show those pretty whites. I don't care if you got 5 teeth in your head, show them.
Uh-huh.
Show them off.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can appreciate the culture. I can appreciate where it's going. But when I say personally that it has taken off to a whole different realm that I have never thought it would exist,
Mm-hmm.
it's taken off. It's really taken off. Really taken off.
Yeah. Well,
Let me go back and kind of add a comment too. I think one of the things you were saying before, I guess, was maybe the type of footage that's being put out. I would say that definitely with the people here, with the video creators here, uh, I I would want to say that there's a sense of responsibility in putting footage out in regards to bands and dancers. So my job is not to put out embarrassing footage of Black college marching bands. There is in my mind with it, there's some items there's some items that are fair play, that if they happen, you know, if I'm recording a fifth quarter and this thing happened, then it happened, you know. But let's say, for instance, there was a situation. There've been at least two of these situations, since I've been recording. One recently, Southern versus Texas Southern, State Fair Classic. I guess maybe 2018, maybe.
I know
I was
exactly
recording.
I know what you're about to say.
Yeah, I was recording Texas Southern's halftime show, and the Motion of the Ocean were doing their show, and at the very end, this young lady, she flipped over and like landed on this other girl, and I'm going. It's every now and then you kind of have those moments where you want to just kind of throw up your head like, oh God, I'm at the end of the footage, and the responsible adult thing says you have to edit this, simply because on one end, what if these other girls go back and look at this footage and it turns into internal conflict amongst these girls? Or it's like on one end, it's the girls involved, the internal conflict perhaps that may occur within the dance troupe, and then the general stuff that happens with other people looking to, I guess it's like saying people are looking to hee and ha at it, but there are people involved in this. And so there's a responsibility. There was another instance that happened at Alcon a couple of years back where somebody doing a throw didn't land right. I edited that because years from now, weeks, days, years from now, when somebody looks at that, you don't want to add fuel to the fire of conflict for people, for personal conflict that may occur for stuff. Like I said, it becomes, you want to mitigate any problems that might happen internally within that organization itself, as well as, I can't say that I'm promoting, Black college bands if I'm trying to show, if my goal is to get what Black college bands do recognized as an art form, I'm not going to put out bad material of a band and try to show that to somebody in France going, hey, here's Black college bands. So there's a responsibility, as a band head. Yeah, there's some things that happen that are, I'm not talking about anything embarrassing to the university, but if somebody flipped on a note that if this happened, during the fair rules of engagement, and it happened, it happened. But if it's something catastrophic, something extremely embarrassing, you, in good conscience, you don't post foolishness like that. And I'm sure everybody on this panel has that same type of response. I'm sure that everybody has that same type of mindset.
Yeah.
And just to touch on your point, I'm sorry to cut you off, Ricky. But to touch on your point, this past year, I just had a situation just like that, where things were out of my control with a certain school. And all of a sudden I'm getting emails and calls saying I need to come up to the school and talk to these girls about what's going on. And at the end of the conversation, it was a uniform malfunction. You all were too big for the uniform. That's not my fault. That's a uniform issue. That's either, I don't know the rules of engagement for that particular school, but that's either a coordinator issue, a director issue, somebody somewhere along the lines, miscommunication and not verifying what you have on happened. And again, like Gerard said, it's not our responsibility to put out bad band footage. To the average person that I'm trying to get in their head. Hey, look, check out this band. This band will kill it. Check out this band over here. They're different from this band that you just saw, but their dance team is hot. I want to put out the best product available. And I'm pretty sure that's everyone in this panel, and that's every coach in this panel. The best product available is the ultimate goal. And of course, the university wants to look good because the university, they're the one who kicks out the money.
Right.
Well, I was gonna say that I remember that that game that Gerard was talking about, and I even remember people commenting on his video asking him why he did not post it, and they were calling him biased, and so people were not happy that he did not post that, while several other entities did post I mean, just random people or just other random YouTubers. I mean, the video was, you could see it, you could see what happened, but people were, I remember that on his video were commenting, asking him why did he not post that footage. So, but I was going to ask, I mean, as you as coaches, if there is an embarrassing moment, or do your girls go back to you all and I mean, do they feel, being that they're critiqued from the minute the video starts to the minute the video ends, do they tell y'all that, I mean, the stuff that they're being judged, that they're being talked about, are these things that they talk to their coaches about?
That's a good point. That's what they talk about on the panel.
It depends on the girl. Some of them can have something like that happen and they will laugh it off and it is no big deal. And then there are others that are just so affected that their self-esteem is so tied to media presentation of them that I mean, I've had girls forget the video, pictures, where they call me and Miss Shawn, why'd you post, what? Can you see? One of them called me and said, Miss Shawn, you know how these people are, you know how social media folks are, they're commenting. Well, someone called me. Someone had the nerve to call her and say something about, now look, y'all, I don't have any hair. Okay, but something was wrong with her wig. I couldn't see it. I don't know nothing about wigs, right? I don't know nothing about the edges and all that kind of stuff. I really don't. But the picture, I guess, did not meet their standards. And they were calling her. They called her directly. And I think part of that is because they know not to say anything on our Instagram, because I've had to clap back at people in the past. So they just kind of know not to say anything because I'm not going to let it stand. So now they actually call the girl. And they say, yeah, you see this picture and it's like this and it's like that. And the video is the same way. I have to watch every second, every 59 seconds of every video that I post on Instagram, because if one little thing is wrong, if I've had the uniform come off, I've had, again, the thing with the hair, these wigs. I can't wait till wigs go out of style. I can't wait. But the wigs and I've had all of this stuff happen, and then they call me right away. Oh, Michonne, you got to take that down. You got to take that down. So yeah, they're very affected by it.
David did a really good job when we had a similar situation when we were in, I want to say Chicago. You remember what happened with my girl on the 50? And it was crazy, but he had 2 shots that game. He had one like really close on the field, and then he had one that was further up in the stands. And I appreciate him because when it happened, he like stepped to the side and like caught her from the side instead of catching her straight on, because she was looking at me like, oh my God, Ray, please help me. And then at some point in the field show, she walks on off. We get her together and she goes back on. She had a hair issue.
Yeah.
And when it got the comments were, why is her hand on her head? And it turned into, holy cow, she did that routine with her hand on her head. What is going on? And then it turned into, she was totally embarrassed, completely embarrassed the day of the show. She got over it. She was not one of those girls who stays in her feelings. But she was very embarrassed because she was the captain and she was on the 50 and was a lot going on. But then the opposite effect happened. She thought people were going to come for her in the comments, so people actually end up giving her all kinds of props because she hit her disc with her hand on her head. She hit like a triple with her hand on her head. Like, she defied gravity while holding her wig on her head. And the comments started going crazy. And I told her, I had to like talk her down. I was like, it's okay. It's not that big a deal. You handled it. It's all good. But I appreciate David for not like keeping the camera on her. It was like second nature. He just rolled on like 2 or 3 feet to the left, caught everybody up. And we still have good footage of that. I think she even uses that footage for like her reel or something, because you really can't tell what's going on. And so there are little things like that where I really, really appreciate, like you said, a bandsman or someone who just has that sensitive eye, who is going to help protect the dancers, or hell, any of these children on the field, because anything can happen with a dancer, with an instrumentalist, with a color guard. It doesn't matter. But we are charged to protect these young people because, they're young people, and these videos are forever. They're forever. YouTube is forever.
Yeah. And it's weird that you say that, because most of the time when it happens in front of me, I never see it. I never see it. I have to always go back and look at the footage. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good thing I have 2 angles. Let me go ahead and do this.
And I've had to do that too, not only with, some of you guys, but with the Storm Media team. I've had to do the same thing. And I'm like, did you not see that? Don't you have another view? I see 4 or 5 of y'all out there with cameras. Clearly we got another view somewhere. So it you guys are not looking for the same things that we are looking for. And before Mr. DeMar just joined us, but before I go and introduce him, there was one more thing with Ricky, because Ricky, you were saying that how what you put together is like almost cinematic, and my question to you or to all of you, and Khalil, feel free to jump in if you understand what we're going for, but do you think you're helping us with that, or do you think that maybe there's room for, okay, there's this kind of footage, and then there's the cinematic, like you know, that one video. Did y'all see Ricky's video that he did for when we were at the Macy's parade? Did y'all see that? Y'all
I
gotta
think I
go.
did see
Yes.
that.
Y'all gotta go
I have
find that.
watched that video several times.
That video is just a piece of art. I just love it. I love
Yes.
that video.
That
And
video was a part of my trip going to the Bahamas.
yeah,
That was on repeat.
yeah. So I mean, so but what do you guys say? I mean, are you hurting us? Or are you helping us?
Nah, I definitely don't think that by doing cinematic work that we're hurting us, hurting the band community. You know, from my standpoint, I've wanted to do. It's like saying, as a band head, why wouldn't you want to see, you know, the band look like it's in the movie? Like that was always, I
Yeah.
guess, my fascination with doing that type of work. You know, like I wanted to be a movie. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you know, again, in the work that's being done, everything is always to make the band world look good. You know, like, you know, let's say, for instance, there was a time I went to the Magic City Classic. This was some years and years ago, sometime in maybe 2006 or 7 or something. Alabama State was wearing some masks. Matter of fact, this was 2006 because I was doing the Marching Network at the time. And they were wearing some masks, and they ended up really, really screwing up some straight lines to the point to whereas, you know, I'm going, you know, if I was trying, you know, like as far as, I guess it kind of becomes this, I can't even show this because these lines are horrible to the, you know, like gross errors that can't just be, oh, somebody messed up real quick, they're going to straighten it up. It was, you know, so saying that to say that whenever there is stuff like that, you know, we typically, you know, just kind of out of responsibility, don't post it. Everything that I'm sure for everybody here, stuff that everybody's doing, it's, you know, we're band heads. So, and I would say that even for the dance folks that record strictly dance, you know, they're putting their energy as fans of dancers, and you know that stuff is taken off. You know, it's like nowadays you'll see folks doing personal videos and all that stuff. Like it'll be a scene where it's just one dance out and doing whatever, and somebody has the, you know, the stabilizer swinging all around the dance. I mean, I'll say that, you know, by and large, people are putting their energy as enthusiasts of the genres to create positive work. You know, that's the intention.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And I mean,
You know what I mean?
I with the cinematic footage, I've like Gerard said, I've always enjoyed when he first did it. I enjoyed the concept of, oh man, this looks like a movie.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of gives you that drumline. The first time you saw drumline, not drumline one, not the first one, not the second one, the first one. You know, it kind of gives you that feeling of, I think everybody who saw it for the first time, yeah, we all had our own opinions. That's not how trombones move. That's not how the dancers move. But this is a major motion picture about the band, about HBCU bands, and about what we all do.
And
At the time, I was in high school, so at the time, this was what I was going to do because I was going to Morris Brown
right,
before their situation happened.
right.
But I don't think it.
But most
I don't
people
think it.
don't even realize that the universities use this footage and they use it in everything. And sometimes, you know, they would love to use, you know, say at PB, they would love to use Marching Star Media footage, but sometimes they can't get Marching Star Media footage. So they're going to go to one of your sites and they're going to, you know, they're going to pull your video and whatever looks the best. That's what they're going to use.
And me personally, I love it because I'm helping out a school that I've never been to, that I hope to go to visit. I know usually I know the staff of every HBCU, but I've just never been to that school.
Mm-hmm.
But I also give them tips. Hey, yeah, your media team, you need to do this. Hey, this guy shouldn't be on the 50, or if he's going to be on the 50, back him up a little bit. You know, I try to help out.
Mm-hmm.
Even with us, when we're at the games, when they have their own media team, I instruct my staff, stay out of the way of the school's media team. they need to get the best footage possible. That's the school. The school is going, well, in my opinion, the school should use that footage first before coming to me, you know? But I may have the better footage at that time. But even still, stay out of the media team's way, because 9 times out of 10, that's a communication student or a digital media student who's wanting to learn, who wants to improve the craft, and I want them to improve the craft. At the end of the day, it's all about improving the craft.
Real quickly, you guys, I want to, before you don't, sorry to interrupt, Gerard, but I want to introduce Khalil Damar, who is, and please tell me if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, because this is the first time we've met. Hey, how you doing? I'm Sean Zachary. And he is known as Demarage on YouTube, mostly recording the band for Alabama State University in the Stingettes. So, well, welcome to the conversation. And okay, so I got all off. I jumped on top of whatever.
Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay, cool. But it's Demarage.
Demarage.
A lot of people say Demarage. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I got you. Demarage. Demarage. Got you. Okay.
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, so Gerard.
Can you hear me good? I'm gonna talk a little bit. Let me know if you can hear me without it breaking up.
You're breaking up a little bit, and there's like a little bit of a delay.
Okay, let me fix it real quick.
So while he's working on that, Gerard, you were about, I stumped on you. You were about to say something. Y'all remember? Because you get no. I get it.
Oh, he's
Gotta
muted.
unmute yourself, man.
You're on mute.
Yeah, all right, cool. I was about to start talking. Yeah, what I was saying is that one thing though that I have been noticing, you know, I certainly have respect for schools' media teams. However, you know, I have, been noticing a trend to where, media teams will jump in front of people's shots. And so I'm a little bit old school in that I started off as a photographer, before I even picked up a video camera. And so as a photographer, there's a certain etiquette that photographers have with each other, a certain etiquette, a certain respect. And I'm sure Ricky and David know what I'm talking about in regards to that. It's one of those things to where everybody's working together to get a good shot, not necessarily I'm stepping in front of you so I can get a better shot, So kind of as somebody who has been there before this existed, that's a little bit, because it's like this. If you're training up kids to be, it's great that they're getting opportunities to do this type of work, and they're doing fantastic work for universities. But if you're shooting for the Times and then you go and stand in front of somebody from the post so you can get a better shot, it could potentially lead to an altercation.
Ooh.
And so what I'm saying is that as a photographer, there's etiquette that you have, in working with other photographers. So, I think that's one piece that has to be, obviously there's respect for people's teams because, by default, university media teams already have more access than what as a band photographer I can get. You can get folks on campus, and in the band room, you can go on the field and shoot, and if you're doing that, there's no need to stand and directly block somebody's shot intentionally.
But so that's a good segue into my next question, which is how have the relationship between you and the coaches, you and the band directors, because of course we can't do nothing without the band directors, and you and the university, how if you're not doing anything to maintain that relationship, what should you be doing to maintain that relationship? Because, and I'll tell you why I asked that. We one of the games, one of our last games at PD, and I don't know if it was homecoming, I can't remember. I think it might have been homecoming. So of course, we had foxes from all the different eras were there, and so of course it brought in a lot of photographers, a lot of videographers, and one of the Marching Storm Media photographers, young, doesn't know, he's kind of young, jumped in front of this guy, and the guy just went off, and I'm standing there literally having to, like, not so much stop an altercation, but to kind of calm him down. I was like, we'll apologize, but first of all, who are you? And who let you in here? You see what I'm saying? So
was it a old school photographer? Old cabin.
It really was sort of like I could understand where he was coming from in terms of the etiquette and all of that. But on the other hand, I was like, who are you? And why are you yelling at my student? So I see both sides, if y'all get where I'm coming from.
Yeah, and that's I understand that, and that certainly is reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Relationship wise with band directors, for the most part, like David said, I know most of the many of the directors. In many cases nowadays, many of them were members of my site back when they were still in college. So I have a relatively, good relationship with them, and they're familiar with me in my work. Mm-hmm. The only time that I've run into any issues has usually been from, let's say, like media team wise, it would end up being somebody younger. So somebody who just joined the media team, freshman or sophomore, who they've watched some work on the internet, and this is somebody who's from over here. So it turns into an us versus them thing. Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of issue that's, because let's say, for instance, it could be at one university, I'm perfectly fine with the person who's over the team. I don't have any issues with them because we've been shooting since back in the day. So it's not a problem. But it would end up being somebody who works for them who's not familiar with that type of etiquette, where we would end up running into the problem. Mm-hmm. And obviously, there's respect for the university photographers. That really goes without saying. But there is also, I guess it's kind of like you don't have to disrespect others also to get your shot.
Yeah. And I really think a lot of it is lack of training and, just lack of knowledge. I can only speak for my team. I don't have anybody on my team that's just out there being a knucklehead for no reason. It's really because they just don't know. And we have to find ways to educate them about it. I mean, you just have to find a way to educate them. But this guy who I will tell you had never seen him at any of our games before, and he just popped up, and he just started yelling at this. I'm like, oh, wait, hold up, and you are.
Yeah,
So,
I believe I know who that guy is, but
oh my gosh, don't do that. We don't know each other.
I mean, we try to maintain a absolute with Bantu. We're going to maintain an absolute open line of communication. Mm-hmm. We want the school to look good. We want the band to look exceptionally good. We want the dance team, the drum line, even on down to the water manager or the aqua engineer, as we call it. We want them to look good because, again, once you post stuff out on the internet, it's out there. It's already out there. And it's hard to retract something that has happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we've had several times where people walk in front of the shots, and it's more of like Gerard said, it's more of I'm getting my shot and I'm not worried about you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we've I've had to talk to my team several times. Hey, look, we're going to alter our equipment. If they want to walk in front of the shot, that's cool. Let them walk in front of the shot. We're going to be 70 inches ahead of them, or we're going to be 70 inches higher than them. So the shot that they're getting, we're going to get a overall view, and we're going to make something out of that. But again, to your point, it comes from lack of training, lack of knowing. I think sometimes it comes from lack of knowing what to do, because also when these teams are getting these shots, you would think that the shot that you're getting is going to be amazing and spectacular and, oh man, this is going to be awesome. And then when you see it uploaded, wow, this sucks.
Yeah, yeah. So, Mr. Demar, would you like to add to this conversation? I want to make sure you get in and have a say.
Well, yes, I can. And that with my situation, I'm really one of the only individuals. Well, I'm one of the only individuals that's recording Alabama State or the Stingettes. So I don't really come into many issues with other videographers or photographers. Usually, I'm the only one that is there to usually record. So I'm not having much of an issue with that as far as, kind of competing or more so just trying to get that perfect shot with any other videographer. So that's my outlook on that.
Okay.
Ms. Sean,
Uh-huh.
I just somebody asked a question here. If there's a unified group or organization for HBCU videographers, and we do have a Facebook group, and I think I think there's a little bit over 20. The ones that we've been doing this for a while, we know each other, and we tend to do have that respect. And oh, if I'm walking in front of him, or I'll kneel down, or just move out the way. We do have that respect. But as Gerard was saying, sometimes it is those new freshmen or sophomore who join the team who don't know who that person is, and it does become that, oh, it's us versus them, and we're going to get in their way, or we're going to get in his way. But the ones who we've been doing this for a while, like I said, we are in a Facebook group, and we see each other almost every weekend. So we do have this respect for each other.
Well, that kind of leads me to, and for those of you who are posting questions, I see your questions, so we'll kind of circle back towards the end and pull out some questions so the panel can answer. Um, but that kind of brings me around to, or back around to the relationship that you guys have, not just with the internal media teams, but with the directors and the university marketing communications departments. Because I know there's typically a procedure now at PB. You have to go and request to get a media pass to be able to be down on the field to shoot. And in some cases, the marketing department or athletics or whoever controls all of that, they may call the Department of Bands and say, hey, do you know who this is, and is it okay, to provide whatever for them? Or sometimes they won't. They'll just give it to you, right? So a lot of times we never will know who's going to show up on the sideline for any particular game. We don't know. And I think it would be super helpful for us to know. So, do you guys have that kind of relationship where you can say, hey, I'm coming, I'm going to be at the game. That way we can kind of notify our media team, and this is just me throwing a suggestion out there, even having you guys, so that now I can kind of debrief them and
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm sorry. Sorry. Go
they're
ahead.
gonna be here. There's gonna be other people there. Please, remember your etiquette. Don't jump in front of somebody. And if somebody starts screaming at you, don't pop them in the throat. It's but because I really do think that, for one, especially especially in this era of COVID. And there's going to be less media passes once we finally do get back to football. Once that time does come, there's going to be less media passes being passed out.
Mhm.
So that relationship, how would you guys classify your relationship with people, in the room where it happens? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
With us, it's awesome. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gerard.
go ahead.
Well, with
Go ahead,
us,
Dave.
our process, and I've developed this process myself. If we're coming to your game, Prairie View versus Langston, Texas Southern versus University of Oklahoma, we are going to send the band a letter because we want to make this. My overall idea is to be professional as possible. I think if we send you a letter, and with the fact that we know everybody, we're going to send you a letter, and I'm going to hit you up personally saying, hey, look, Miss Sean, I'm going to be there Wednesday. We're going to be shooting for X, Y, and Z. And on Saturday, we're also going to be shooting for X, Y, and Z.
Uh-huh.
Now, having said that, not only do we at BandTube go to the band staff, we try to maintain a excellent relationship with the president or chancellor or whatever they call it,
Mm-hmm.
and the athletic director, because essentially those are the ones who are going to grant us higher access.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
With the athletic director, most of the time, in my experience, they have no idea why we're applying for a band media pass. They just see that we apply for a band media pass, and the question starts, well, why are you just only recording the band? My response is, well, I'm not recording the band. I'm recording the HBCU experience,
Oh.
which is everything. So that kind of mitigates denial and no, you can't come here. But if they said, no, you can't come here, if the athletic director, because I've been around a while, so I'm kind of that guy. If the athletic director says that we can't come, I also let the band staff know, hey, your athletic director said this. Now what I'm going to do is go to the president and get their opinion, because essentially the president wants whatever makes the school look good, valuable, excellent to the alumni, excellent to the board of trustees, excellent to so on and so forth to the masses.
Mm.
And I think there should be a relationship. I think at least you should have a relationship with the band staff, because at the end of the day, these are the people you're putting out there.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is going to see them. Everybody is going to see the students. They're going to see the dancers. They're going to see the band staff. I have band staff's mothers as my friend on Facebook and Instagram. So they want to see their son and daughter out there doing their thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it for me, it goes back to what Gerard said, responsibility. I have a responsibility to do this, make everyone look valuable, and have a good time while doing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think
Yeah.
that, can you guys hear me a little better now?
Yeah.
Okay. I think there's two sides of this coin that you guys need to kind of look at. One is in this era with us being heavily virtual for the foreseeable year, that there is an opportunity, but it's not going to happen unless that relationship is solidified. Do you understand what I'm saying? If that relationship is not nurtured, it's not going to happen, because on the flip side of that, they are going to be giving less media passes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's inevitable.
Yep.
It's inevitable. I would say, on my end, relationship wise, and even just getting on the field, I always contact, universities, to actually request credentials. And if I don't get a credential, I ain't going.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go. If I don't get one, I just go someplace else where I have So,
Mhm.
you know, yeah, this, you know, it's going to be interesting uh, this next year.
Yep.
It's going to be very interesting because this one difference though. One difference is when I came in, you were lucky to get a credential or maybe two credentials,
Mhm.
and nowadays, you have
Everybody's on
folks
the sideline.
that's requesting multiple credentials per entity. So even from that standpoint of everybody's getting 2 and 3 credentials, they're getting 3 and 4 credentials, or they're getting whatever. That piece has already kind of been affecting. That piece is already there.
Mhm.
And look, COVID-19, it's going to be really, really. I mean, because the first logical step would be to limit the number of people.
Mhm.
Limit the number of people on the field. That's to be perfectly honest with you, I don't even really know how that's going to end up working anyway by the time it happens. Hopefully, if it happens, I guess it's one of those. It's just going to be a interesting year.
Yeah,
Interesting year. Let
For
me know about that.
everyone, for everyone,
yeah.
for everyone.
Because we're
It's
having a
gonna,
issue of scheduling games. It's the end of July. Normally, our schedule is packed. We already know where we're going. Rooms are booked. Flights are booked. Everything is set. But
Mhm.
now we haven't done anything because no one knows what's happening this
Right.
year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every classic that we think is going to happen has either been postponed or canceled, or it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And even our major classics, our staple classics, the Bayou Classic and the Magic City, and they don't call it a staple classic, but the Boombox Classic.
Mhm.
Side note: Gerard is the architect of that, but uh, even those classic games, they have been postponed and canceled. So even lately, when we put out a notice of this school is canceling for the season, it's not been met with backlash, but it's been met with, oh, I knew they were going to do that. Well, I'm glad I didn't go ahead and book my room. And it's just nobody knows where anything is going at this moment.
Mhm.
well, I want to bring up that, I mean, with this whole COVID-19 now, as I mean, those of us who work independent, it may be a little bit harder now that these bands would definitely rely on the media teams from their school.
Mhm.
Because as we've mentioned, it's going to be harder for us to get in, to get credentials and stuff. So it's going to rely a lot on the band media teams to continue. I mean, updating fans and posting footage. I was reading an article. Norfolk State, their band director had in a interview that mentioned that they're in talks about doing virtual battles with other schools. I mean, even schools that they would have never seen in their schedule.
Yeah, we all are.
Um, so it's going to rely a lot now on the band media teams.
Yeah, but it could also be a potential opportunity for the independent media teams, but only you are in control of that. You understand what I'm saying? And that means your product has to be top notch. Your
Right.
relationship has to be, your communication skills and your relationships with these people have to be nurtured.
Yeah,
Because yeah, I mean, the band media teams are definitely going to be very, very important, but you just think about it, every school doesn't have one. I mean,
yeah,
we're talking from a position of privilege at this point,
yeah.
you know?
There's a huge difference between the SWAC media teams, your Southerns and your Prairie View and UAPBs versus the smaller schools like your Livingstones and your Virginia States and Virginia Unions.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the people out there out west and further south like that in the UAPB area, I'm sorry, the Pine Bluff area and Jackson, Mississippi area, they're not going to know who Morgan State is from Baltimore. They're not going to know who Virginia Union is from Richmond. They're just not going to know. And you know, like you said with the Norfolk State idea, when I was watching that same thing or I was reading that same article, the idea is an excellent idea, in my opinion, if it's done right.
Right.
And I guess this is one of those things that I have. We always have excellent ideas, but when it comes to execution, it's never done right.
I have a question. I'm going to zig a little bit. And it's in regards to sound. Okay. So sometimes we get video, and a videographer they may be focusing in on the dancers or they may not. But then when you post the video, the band sounds like a tin can band. And we know that our band does not sound like that. If you were there, you know that too. Right? And to a band director, that is highly important. Highly important. Again, I'm going to let Mr. DeMar jump in too, because I know I want him to be able to add to the conversation as well. But when you're recording, how important is that to you? And what are you guys doing to, to make sure that what we hear is just as good as what we see?
I feel as if you have to know you have to know how to work your sound systems. You have to know how to work your microphones. You have to know your equipment in order to capture bands. Because you want to get close-up shots. Especially when you're recording the dances, you want to get close-up shots. But a lot of times when you get the angle that you are in down closer by the dancers, you may only get like the first couple rows of trumpets, and it's a lot easier to hear the mistakes rather if you were across the field to where the sound is projected louder. You're not hearing the mistakes. A lot of times you have more so of your freshmen on the ends for those who may record on the end sides of the bands, so it's like you're picking up all of that sound that you're really not wanting to pick up, and it may not sound as best for the band. So I've been learning that as well. It's like, okay, I know the band doesn't sound like this, but when I record it and when I post it, it kind of sounds just like he's saying like trash cans, you hear, and it's like, I don't like the way this sound compared to how it is at the game.
And
So
the band directors
as a
cannot
videographer,
stand it.
But check it out. What you would do
I
with that,
can't
man?
say myself.
What you would do would be you would have sound coming from another spot. So you would, just like you were saying, if you want to go ahead and get the up close shot, you would go ahead and get that, but have your sound coming from a different area. So by the time
Correct.
you get to post, basically you just sync it up in post,
Yeah.
sync it up in post, and take care of what you need to take care of. As far as the up close sound, don't use the up close sound. Use the sound that's coming from a different one, and so that would help you out.
But I
that
know
would help you out
this.
with that.
I know this. I'm not just a dancer, I'm a musician, so I know this. I need y'all to know it. I need your people to know it. I just like, can y'all spread past the word? Because I'm serious. I just, it's frustrating, and it just doesn't do anything to endear you to the band directors who
I think
who are the keepers of the gate. They're the keepers of the gate.
Yeah.
I mean, with the yeah, I mean, like Gerard was saying, I mean, you want and Demarge was saying, when you're up close, you're always going to get, I mean, some terrible sounds. Most of the individuals, maybe individual sounds that you may not get as a full surround sound when you're, you want to catch the full wave, not individual sounds. And I think as sometimes the newbie videographers, I mean, it's a process. You need experience because, I mean, that's the only way you learn. But I think, I mean, so far, I mean, I think the video wise, I think we've all improved the sound, but you still have those fresh new ones who are still getting the hang of it. But I mean,
Yeah.
I totally understand. I mean, it is something that I think audio to me is perhaps, I mean, right up there with video. I mean, it's, if not even more important, because I've even seen videos of YouTube comments where the focus is on the dancers, but the comments are, wow, this band sounds terrible, or
Yeah.
these dancers deserve a different band
Yeah.
behind them.
And what you
Yeah.
guys have to, and I was going to say that a lot of times when we do have, media personnel whose main focus is auxiliary, that sometimes they don't worry about the sound. And so unfortunately, everybody who is down there in front of the band needs to be well rounded and to kind of understand that, because I tell people all the time, when I tell coaches and anybody who asks me, even when we are deciding what we're going to do for a halftime show, for example, um, uh, we song choice is important, and the way that the band plays it is important. If the band does not like the song and and kind of blows it off and doesn't really play it the way that they should play it, it's not going to work for the dancers.
Yeah.
And then people in the stands, they're just not looking at the dancers. It's not the visual stimuli and what they hear, that works together. So if they hear garbage, they're gonna see garbage, or
Yeah.
they're gonna look at it and be like, well, that was all right. You know what I mean? So it's important that those things work, that they work together, and you guys, have to kind of help with that. In particular, the videographers who do just the dancers.
Yeah. And to your point, when I was at least when I was assistant in high school, I always used to tell my band, your energy is going to set the level for the dancer's energy.
Right.
If you don't have high energy, if your music is not up to par, they're
Mm-hmm.
going to go into what's called quicksand. They're going to be
Mm-hmm.
slow, sluggish.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to give out high energy. They're going to give off what you put off.
Right.
And the sound, like Ricky said, there's been several clips where I've seen dance line is fire, flag line is fire, but the band sounds bad.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that the band sounds bad overshadows everything else.
It does. It really, really does. Both in person and on video.
Yeah.
The band could sound really great in person, and if it sounds bad on the video, and like you said, that's the thing that people hone in on, and that's what they start commenting on.
And
Oh,
that's
the
where the
band sounds bad.
excuses come in next. Oh,
Yeah.
this wasn't a good week for the band, or they had just performed this, and
Yeah, right. Well, guys, let me go through. We need to start wrapping up a little bit. So let me go through. We had a few questions in the chat. Um, I think you guys already, Ricky already answered the one about a unified group organization for HBCU videographers. So, but Ricky, if there is something that you can share, like the link to the Facebook group or something like that, feel free to put it in the chat. For people who
Oh,
may
well,
not.
yeah, I mean, that Facebook group was created. It's just for the videographers, so
Mm-hmm.
that's how we kind of stay in touch of, I mean, who's going here, or
Right.
what they're doing. We actually, Garrett from Southern was kind of preparing a conference in Vegas, but then COVID
Yeah.
hit.
Yeah.
So he was in the process of kind of getting all of us together and having a conference and just discussing all the issues and stuff that we go through. But yeah, I mean, that group is specifically just for us.
Mm-hmm. Good. Okay. One question: do the fans prefer auxiliary footage or band footage?
Loaded question.
Yeah,
You
very
know,
loaded.
it's interesting these days.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I think it's
Um,
just, I think it depends on the viewer. It depends on the
Yeah, I
viewer
think it
what
depends.
you're wanting. You know, some people they may, okay, I'm going to see the Stingers, so I want to go see the Dolls, so they may look up a doll video as far as the visual. Now, if I want to hear like a band playing, if I'm more so wanting to hear the audio, I'll go to a Southern. I go look for Southern's music. So I think it's more so just what the person is looking for. They may prefer, a band member may prefer the band over looking at the auxiliary. So me, like if it's an auxiliary, I'll know where to go to look at the auxiliary. But if it's a band song, I'll know where to go look at the band. You know, the best bands that sound better, Jackson State, Southern, of that nature. So I think it just kind of depends on the viewer.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a little bit of both, or at least every time I upload something, I hope it's a little bit of both. I hope I hope I attract I'm all about dance. I only care about dance. That's all I want to do is dance. I hope I attract that person.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they see the clip, wow, this sounds amazing. I may want to do something else, you know? But
Mm-hmm.
then I also hope I get the average bandsman who they've been playing the instrument for X amount of years or months or whatever, and they see this awesome dance line and okay, well, I want to do that. Now, also, if you want to do that, just know there is a lot you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I think it just kind of depends on the actual person.
Yeah, I personally focus a lot more on the band, but that's when these different shots of having different shots of videos come into play when you can have kind of mix and match. So 10,
Hmm.
15 seconds of the band and then switch the frame to the dancers or have a small window up top for just dancers. And dancers, I mean, the whole dancing thing has been a trend that just kind of skyrocketed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is something that
So
I've been doing a lot more. But then we do have those specific videographers like uh, Demarriage, I think I pronounced it right, Trend, who focus, who their fans is mainly dancer fans.
Mm-hmm. I think too. I think what's needed if you are a videographer or even a photographer who's not quite versed in shooting dance and color guard, that you do build your relationship with the coaches and kind of get a little training on that because there was a video from State Fair Classic last year that, oh my God, I just wanted to go into YouTube and just rip it off. It was just, it just wasn't appropriate. You know what I mean? And we're the ones that determine, our team's image is, we spend a lot of time crafting the image of the team, right? And it's based on what the band director wants and it's based on what the university wants. And then it's like sometimes, the stuff that gets posted is like, oh my, and so I think there needs to be, if I had a wish, there needs to be a little bit of focus for those of you that are including shots of the dancers in the color guard in your videos, is to kind of maybe get with us and and let us look at it, or just come talk to us and we'll give you a little quick 20-minute rundown of what to do and what not to do, because some people just don't know.
Hmm.
They just don't know. And then, like you said, like what one person is looking for is different than what another person might be looking for, right? And sometimes I have a relationship with somebody and I can say, hey, can you please take that down because that's not cool. And then there's other people, I don't know them, I don't know where they are or anything, and I can't get a hold of them, and that footage is there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
well, with me covering a lot of the dancers, I've been told I have a problem with making the singers look perfect Like a lot of times I may record something where, like say for instance, I'm sure everybody has seen the video where Asia Martin fell in the stands. She fell back and she got up and recovered. I have that video, but I never posted it because, I just felt like, it was a mess up. Like any mess ups or any kind of hiccups, I try not to upload that. I try to get the viewers to just view them in the most perfect way that I can. A lot of the girls come back and be like, well, why you didn't post that video? Or you got some more videos to upload. And I'd be like, no, that's it. You may have messed up here or you may have messed up there, and they don't know that because they're performing at the time.
Right,
But as
right.
as I'm looking over, it's like, okay, well, that's a mess up. I know this will have 300 comments about it, in a negative way. So I'm just gonna leave it alone and not post it. I do that a lot. I feel like it happens at least once or twice each season when I'm recording. It's like, okay, well, I have to not put that video up, or I end up editing out the flaw in the video just to make it look like it's perfect, flawless. Just
Mhm.
to so the girls can see themselves in the best way because you don't really want to see yourself mess up. At the same time, when you do, everybody's gonna have an opinion about it. They're gonna spot that out overall everything else. So when I'm recording, yeah, you're gonna have some flaws, you're gonna have some mess ups, but I just usually try to upload the closest to perfect videos that I can get of the girls. And it's just not of this thing, it's just anybody I'm recording.
Mhm. Right.
And I honestly, I think dancers suffer the most scrutiny out of everybody.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
They
You
do.
don't smile, it's a problem. Your wig fall off, that's a problem. Weave is offset, that's a problem.
You're not doing
Lipstick
what I
isn't
want you to
on
do.
fleek,
That's a
that's a
problem.
problem.
Mhm.
They
Yep.
on
I
the
mean,
wrong
Yep.
step, that's a problem.
Mhm.
even
Everything's a
things
problem.
like marching out. So after a full game, you're not going to expect the outfit. I mean, it might have a tear here or there, and I mean, obviously, you don't expect the outfit to be the same as what you started. And I mean, I see those comments all the time as well. Oh, there's a rip right there, and then all these replies just critiquing that one tear. I mean, and we were saying earlier, I mean, this whole generation it critiques a lot. So you want to be careful because we don't know this girl's or this student's self-esteem. It might affect them. I mean, in more ways than what we may think.
Mhm.
Exactly, because it's like we got to think about it. These kids are 18, 19, 20. They're young. They're young. They're in school. So when they see stuff like that, especially still at a young age, it can affect them a lot. It's a lot of girls. It's just like I just want to dance. I didn't come to be scrutinized, dogged out, and just talked about in such a negative way. So that's another reason why I try to just show them in the best light that I can because it has affected girls before. I talked to some of it and the comments can affect you, your self esteem. You already going there with thinking this and then once you see it, like, oh my God. So, you know,
Yep.
Mhm.
it
Going back to
gets
that
serious.
last school, that school I didn't want to mention, girls
Mhm.
had to go through therapy. I
Mhm.
didn't
Mm.
know there was such a thing.
Yeah, yeah. It can
Right,
it
it
can get
is.
it can get really traumatic for some people.
Mhm.
Well, I want to first of all just or last lastly, thank you guys for giving up of your time today to sit here and have this discussion, and um I think stay tuned because there are whisperings of more organized efforts to try and get media professionals together. I think if Garrett was going to do a conference, I think that's an awesome idea. I really think that you need it. Uh, or that the that part of what we do, it needs it because it's a permanent part. It's not going anywhere. It's really not going anywhere. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, but I really think we need to kind of cut it off because we've been chatting for a minute. But uh, I'm hoping that maybe you guys can, if you're not busy tomorrow, uh, the last session in our series is with the public relations, marketing, branding type people, and Garrett and Lamont Lawhorn from North Carolina A&T are going to be on that panel. Uh, So it's still very much a discussion that incorporates media teams, and I think we need to know. I think we need to understand a little bit better about ownership and about trademarks and copyrights and licensing and permissions and all of that stuff. I think if you don't know it, if you already know it, great. But if you don't, I think it's just good, for just a good discussion for you guys to have, because like I said, this coming year is going to be really interesting for all of us. And I appreciate I appreciate those of you who stay in touch with me. I want to shout David and Gerard out for being a sponsor, actually being a sponsor of the association. And if you want to be a sponsor, you can email me later. But they are sponsors, and I think this is all really good discussion, and we'll continue more of this in tomorrow's session, which is at 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Central Time. And the Zoom login information is different than this one, so make sure you take a look at the flyer.
Definitely. Definitely will do.
Cool. Does
You're probably
anybody
gonna
else?
have to hit me up on Messenger anyway. But
Is the flyer located?
I know, right?
So where is the flyer located?
It's right now it's on the association Instagram and Facebook. But I'll text it to you.
Okay.
Okay, I'll text it to you.
Thank you
will
so
this
much.
video be available for reposting for anybody who is interested in maybe,
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
it's gonna be in our live. It's going live on Facebook right now. But I download them and put them on YouTube. So on the
Okay.
association YouTube page, they're there so people can go. And I'll send you guys all those links so that you'll have
Okay.
access to it.
Awesome. Sounds good.
So for those of you who just kind of who dialed in just to hear what we had to say, thank you very much. I appreciate your support of the association. For our media professionals, thank you for joining us tonight, just to give us an inside view of what you've done, and continue doing good work. And hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow.
All right.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Right.